So hello YouTube friends, this is the first part of the long-awaited journal video, part 1, where we're going to make the covers for the journal. It's a really long video. So I'd just like to say right away that this is how I make journals. There are hundreds of different ways of making journals out there. These are just tips from me. You just do whatever you like. But I'm going to launch straight in now on part 1. Next week there'll be part 2, which will be about making the pages that will go inside your journal, and then the third part will be part 3, which is about stitching them all together and finishing your book. So the long videos means that we'll do 1, 2, 3 parts all in one go. Okay, so I hope you're all right with that. If you're not interested in this, there'll be all sorts of other content coming along soon. But it's really lovely to have you along. Here we go. Here's the New Zealand journal here. And so we'll just put that to one side. Because what we want to do first of all is make the cover. Now, if you ever buy a large sketchbook, this is an A3 size sketchbook, it will have a piece of cardboard on the back that will be exactly what we need for making the covers for an A4. This is A4 paper here for an A4 journal. Okay, and it's bigger than we need it to be. All right, so the first thing I do when I'm making a journal like this is I make a test page. Now, if you decide at this point, do you want your book to be square, in which case you could make the cover to fit a square journal, but mostly because A4 is such a common size in all papers and so on, I make A4 journals, and I use this folded over piece of A4 so that it'll be an A5 page, the page that I finally use, and then I'm going to make the cover correspondingly. Now, you can measure things, of course you can, and you can measure with millimetre precision, but that's not my style. I do some measuring in this journal, but I mostly do it by eye. And so you can see here that I've made a little margin here. This is my sample page. All my pages are going to be approximately this size, folded over. So I'm going to leave a margin of let's see, half a centimetre, what would that be, 1/4 of an inch, something like that. You can work it out yourself. I'm going to eyeball it, but if you want to measure it, you can. Now, if you haven't got a piece of card, this is lovely stiff card that would do for the back of your journal and for your journal cover, something like this would do. I bought a new kettle a while ago and it came in this lovely rigid box. It's not a flexible cardboard, it's a good rigid cardboard. Now, I'm going to make a journal using this card, so we will use this as well. But for now, I want to show you what to do if you've got the back of a pad of paper. So basically, it's going to be a bit tricky to do it underneath here with this overhead, but we'll have a go. And I've got my cutting mat. Don't worry if you haven't got a cutting mat. You can still do this very accurately without getting too stressed about measurements. So I'm just going to get myself a pencil. So I'm eyeballing this measurement here and this measurement here, and I'm going to make a mark there, which is the same interval as here. Now, with this on the cutting mat like that, I'm going to line this mark up here very accurately with my cutting mat. Now, I use a modelling knife like this. This is actually a scalpel, and it has a new blade in, so it's very sharp, and I use a metal ruler on a self-healing cutting mat. Now, if you've got a different way of cutting, definitely don't use scissors. See if you can use a modelling knife or a Stanley knife or some accurate way of cutting. But the sharper this blade is, the easier this whole job's going to be. So there we go, I've cut that piece off. I'll keep that, I might use that for something else. So now let's have a look at this now. We'll line this back up here. Always know where your scalpel is. When you put your scalpel down, put it somewhere where it's out of the way, where you won't knock it on the table. Now it's important, I think, you can choose, after you've seen this or after you've worked this out, you can choose for yourself how much of a margin you want to leave. But for me, with the type of book I'm making, that's about perfect. Okay, so I'm going to put a mark here and a mark here. Now if we look back at the New Zealand journal again, I'm going to put a lot of pages in this book. So we need the spine then to be thick enough to take all those pages. And I'm working in centimetres because it works for me. You can use inches if you like. But this is 3 centimetres from side to side here. And I'm now going to mark that 3 centimetres here. So that's my template. In fact, I'm going to write template on it, because I'm going to use that for every page measurement. So now then I'll take it to 30 there, because the ruler's longer than the little box that I've got you perched on. I'll take that to 27 there. 30, I'll take that to 27 there. Okay, so that's my 3 centimetres there. And the next thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to cut this, I'm just going to score it. I'm going to place my ruler accurately along those 2 marks there, and just with the blade pressing lightly, I'm just going to score that. I'm not cutting it, it's just a score line, so that when I bend it like that, it breaks the card and that scores it. That's going to be the front of my book. Don't worry about this tatty edge here, we'll sort that out later. So now then, I'm going to put another score line here. Bend that one, so that now I have the front and the back of my book. And obviously that bit's far too big, so I'm going to measure this now really carefully. What is that measurement? It's 15.5 centimetres. So I'm going to now mark 15, just carefully line the back of the ruler up there, 15.5 centimetres. Got a little mark on my ruler there. 15.5 centimetres from there. It's actually 15.6 centimetres there. And then I'm going to cut this off. Now I'm going to make a second book. I'm going to do it in inches, just so that everybody's happy with centimetres and inches. That bit's off now. Get rid of that. And this now is the cardboard cover for my book. Just check that it lines up beautifully there, and it does. So all my little eyeballing worked. This spine here is where all the pages are going to sit inside. We'll deal with that later. But for now, that is the cover of the book. I'm going to do another one in inches, just so that you know that I'm bilingual, okay? Okay then, so I've cut all the extra little bits and pieces off this kettle box. And this is far too big. But I'm going to use my template. That's how big I want my pages to be. So I'm going to use my template then. Do this on the inside. I've already got one fold here. So I'm going to do my measurement here and make another fold. I need to make sure that I get rid of that, because that's the bit at the top. I don't really want that. So I'm going to, as I say, I'm going to do this one in inches. Now, this then is no, it's not. It's 5 3/4 wide, and let's just jot that down. 5 3/4, and it's 8 1/4 long. 8 1/4 long. Okay. All right then. So using this scrap then, first thing I'm going to do is just cut off the excess. Oh, actually, don't forget to cut off the excess so that I get that little bit out of the way, the bit that was the tag in the kettle box. It's a great kettle, really like it. So I'm just going to pop that on there, then line these up with my cutting mat here. Get my nice long ruler. It doesn't matter, I'm not measuring at the moment. What I'm doing is I'm eyeballing again. I'm a big fan of eyeballing. But measure if you want to. Of course, you must measure if you want to. I never do. I don't mind the little indiscrepancies you get by eyeballing. I really don't. In fact, I think they make the thing nicer. I'm going to cut the top of that off then. Get rid of that little bit there. And then one of these folds is there already, so I'm going to cut metal ruler, cutting mat. Let's cut it there. I'll just cut that like so. In fact, I'll turn it round because I can't see. There we go. Perfect planning prevents pathetic performance. I'm going to pop that there like so. Cut that off. And then, where's my New Zealand journal? Here it is. I'm going to measure the spine here, and it's 1 1/4 inches, which is the amount you need for the bulk of the pages. So I'm going to measure 1 1/4 inches there, and 1 1/4 inches here, and then I'm going to put my ruler against those 2 marks there. Now this is thinner, this card, than the one I've just been using to make this cover. So I'm not going to use the front of the blade, I'm going to use the back of the blade, and I'm just going to gently run it alongside there, and then pick the card up where the fold would be, and that now is the fold of my journal. And then measuring this again, what was it? Let's see, it was 6 1/4, wasn't it? So I'm going to now measure 6 1/4 from that fold, 6 1/4 there, 6 1/4 at the bottom, and then line those 2 marks up. There now is my second cover, which has got the space for the pages to sit, and now we're going to decorate the cover. So here I've got children's books here, I've got some old calendars here, I've got some of my printed paper from the gel print press thing. I've got wrapping papers, different wrapping papers, and then I found a calendar that I made years ago, and I've cut a couple of my pictures, my own pictures from that, which I might use. What else have I got over here? So in this pile I've got some pages that are torn out of an art book that I got from a charity shop. More papers, decorative papers there we might use. Here is a lovely old map that's been cut up. This is a book that I bought some years ago, which is papers from Art Deco papers. I've got loads of those. We might use some of those. There's another calendar that I was given some years ago. In fact, this is December 2008. And there's some beautiful artistic fruits and things here. They might put in an appearance, you never know. This is a calendar of textile designs from 2013. Now, I like this one, this calendar. So I might actually, I think I might use some of these. Yeah, I think this is the one I might use. Yeah, I'm going to use this calendar for one of the 2 books I'm making. Yeah, so I'll put that one out because I like that one. So I've selected this one then. Got my 2 covers there. Make a bit of space. I'm quite a messy worker, but I have a little bit of space to work in. This is my template page, and it's important that I don't lose that, so I'll put that to one side there. And then this is one of the books then is going to be, the covers is going to be from this textiles book, and I like that one very much. So we'll have a look and see if it's possible to use that. Yeah, I like that a lot. So what I'm going to do with this then, I'm going to cut it in half lengthways. Now, at this point, you can do anything at all that you like with your book, obviously. Anything. I'm just going to do this little bit of designing now. So I'm going to cut this in half, like so that I've got 2 pieces, one for the front and one for the back. Yeah, I like that a lot. I like the red and I like the birds on that one. Okay, so we'll choose this one because it's on the top. Now, I've just cut that, and obviously you can see that it's not big enough to cover that, but that's fine because I'm going to actually put, you can see on this book here, on my New Zealand journal, I've actually got the cover, the front and back cover there, and I've got some fabric here. And this is a good way of dealing with the problem where the book is opening and closing, and paper would crack. It just, unless you're very careful, you can make it so it doesn't. But I'm going to use these pieces of paper then, here. I'll line up that bird so it's where I want it to be. And then I'm going to use some fabric here to make the spine. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Yes, I really like those. And they're too long, so I'm going to mess about now until I get them to exactly the right size. I'll do that with you overhead so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, we're overhead now, so you can see, can't you, that this is too big. I do need an overlap. I do need it to overlap so that I can stick it down, but there's too much at the top here. And I want that in the middle. So let's see. I'm going to mark it up with a pencil. Now I'm kind of eyeballing the bottom, and I want about the same at the top. So I'm going to cut about that much off at the top. I'm sorry if all this about is driving you crazy, but I really do like to eyeball this and make it work how I want it to, rather than rigidly measuring it. It does work. So there's my little mark. I've lined it up on the cutting mat. I'll get my metal ruler here, line that up so that I can see that the interval is right there. Cut that off, and that then is the size that I want that to be, so that that'll be pretty much in the middle. I'll do the same with this one. I want your bird to be about there. Okay, so we'll just whiz that off as well. Trust yourselves. You don't have to always be stuck to measuring everything. And what's the worst that can happen? If it goes a little bit wrong, it's an old calendar, isn't it? If you've spent hundreds of pounds on your materials, then you could get upset. But we haven't. We've spent nothing on our materials so far. Okay then, so here I have some PVA glue, and I've watered it down with water so that it's about like cream. It's thinner than double cream. It's about like single cream. And I'm going to put this all over this side of the cardboard. I know it won't go that far, but I'll put it anyway because it'll dry. And I'm going to just apply glue then with this brush here all over this, so none of the cardboard is not wet. That's a double negative. All of the cardboard is wet, but only with a very thin smear of glue. You know, we don't want this to be massively wet, because I'll tell you what happens as soon as you put paper onto wet PVA, it wrinkles. You're not to freak out, because when it wrinkles, once it's dried, it unwrinkles. Trust me. Now I'm going to decide, this is the front cover, do I want a red bird on the front or a white bird? The red bird. Okie dokie, so eyeballing that. I'm just going to check there's enough there. There is. I'm going to have a little border there so that I can apply my fabric to that. And then we're going to press that down. Don't worry about the wrinkles. Please don't worry about the wrinkles. And now to do the corners, this is like an important thing. So watch carefully with this now. I'm going to cut the corner off here, but I'm not cutting the corner off right to the cardboard, because the cardboard has got a height to it. It's only tiny, but it still has to be accommodated by the paper. If I cut that off next to it, you would have a little bit of that cardboard sticking out. So I'm actually going to cut it off there, and you can see that I've got a little border there between there and there. I'm going to just cut it off like so, and the top the same, so that I've got a little bit of, I'll show you a bit closer. That is an important distance there. And I'll show you how we're going to make a really, really nice, neat corner now. Okay, so just one side at a time. I'm going to put glue, PVA glue, watered down here on one side like so. And then I'm going to pull this right round. I know I've got more glue than I need, but that's okay. It dries clear. It's not a problem. I'm going to pull that round like so. And you can see, can't you, that I've got a little bit of an excess there and there. Now at this point I realise I've got PVA glue on my left hand. You want to be really careful not to get PVA on the front of your board, because that is a shame if that happens. So try and keep all the PVA in one place. So with the cloth here, I'm just going to press this down like so. Now this is a good bit. I'm going to see if I can actually zoom you in so that you can see what I'm doing here. Because once you've mastered this corner, it's the difference between it looking okay and looking fantastic. Okay, so there's our first folded down edge there. And what I'm going to do now with my finger nail, I'm going to poke that in like that, so that there's a pleat. It's like a pleat there. Okay, and then I'm going to get a little bit of PVA glue along here. I've done that pleat there, just kind of like tucked it in. I always think of it as like hospital corners on your sheets, but you can see, can't you, that that's just cinched in a little bit. And now when I bring this over, put you so that you can see, I'll just take you out a little bit. When I pull this over here now, and press that down, press down, I'm sort of pulling it towards myself. Okay, let's get a little bit of a cloth on there. And when you look at that corner now, it's really neat. You can't see any cardboard poking through. Don't worry about these bits. We'll sort these bits out later. We just want to make sure that that bit is okay. I'm going to do exactly the same with this side now. So there's a chance to watch it again. It's gone a bit wrinkly here. Don't worry. The wrinkles will disappear once the paper's dry. So I'm going to press that edge in with my finger like that, Looks a bit weird, but that's what you're going to do. And you have a little bit of a wrinkle there. Don't worry about the wrinkle. Just apply some PVA along here. And then again, pull this in really carefully. Got my cloth again so I can wipe that excess off. And we're going to press that down so that that corner then, there's no cardboard showing, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And on the other side, it looks like that. A really, really neat corner. Now, it also looks wrinkly. You're not to worry about the wrinkly, okay? I'll take care of the wrinkly. You can feel there's a wrinkle in the paper. That's because the paper has absorbed some of the wet glue. Once that dries out, it will straighten up again and all the wrinkles will disappear. And I like that. I like that a lot. So I'm going to do the other side now in exactly the same way. Make sure that you, so I nearly did that then, make sure that your bird, if it's a directional pattern, make sure your bird's going the right way, okay? And also, as we have decided that we're leaving this amount of space here, leave the same amount here. So I'll just quickly measure that actually, if I can find a ruler. There it is. So I've got, just less than an inch. So I'll just do just less than an inch on this side, put a little mark, and that's where I want my glue. Journal, there's the back. It's wet, so I'm just going to leave it to stand like that so that the whole thing will dry and all these wrinkles will come out. Promise. So the next thing we need to do, this is beautifully dry now, and we need to make this cover have a lovely hinge thing going on. Now fabric's good for that. Paper would kind of tear when you folded it here. It's not got enough give in it, but fabric's great for it. And I found this fabric in my drawer here, which I think would look quite good and make this journal very red indeed. I like red. So I've cut this strip of fabric, which is just half an inch bigger on both sides than the where the papers meet. And now I'm going to put glue here, just up to here, and maybe a tiny squeak over, just a little. It'll dry, but I don't want to get it too much onto the front covers. Right, like so. And this hasn't got a right side or a wrong side or an up or a down. So I'll just position it on there, like that. It's got plenty of movement in here. I can still move it if I need to. I'm going to put it on there. I'm going to pull it so that it's... I'll just angle you down again. Sorry, guys. There we go. It's a little better. A little bit of glue on the top. Don't need the sound effects. Pull that bit over there. Down you go a bit more. Pull that bit down there. I don't mind if these stick out and are a different size. It all adds to the scrappy fun of it. I love that actually. I really do. So being careful with the glue again, just poke that bit down there. And there's my cover. And I'm going to close it like that, so that as the glue is drying, it's hard to know how to have you here. So as the glue is drying, it dries in the closed position, not open. It doesn't actually matter if it's fabric. It really does if it's not fabric, if it's paper, because it really has to be dried closed. Okay, so that's that part of it done there now. And although when the book's finished you don't actually see this inside bit here, I usually like to stick a bit of something inside as well. So just to give it a bit of extra reinforcement. So I've just been upstairs and I found this. I'd put all the pink and red fabric away from making the scrappy quilt. But I've just found this, which is a part of a jelly roll. And it's little pink spots. And to make this, you don't really need it, but I'm going to make this reinforcing section on the inside of this book. It's going to get a lot of use, this book, and so you want to make sure that wherever you can put reinforcements you do now. And that's just going to sit in there. That's going to make me happy. Yeah, I like that. So let's get a piece of this and we'll just... That's great. Yes, that is definitely going to make me happy having that on the inside there. But I am going to dry this folded. Right, like that. To be end papers for this now. So I'll go and have a little look round, see what I've got, and we'll come back and we'll do that in a minute. I'm just going to pop in here and just say that I did the red cover and then I made the second cover and I show you how to do the end papers on that one. It's exactly the same for the red cover. It's a very long video, this, isn't it? Is it too long? Okay, back to the end papers now. Here's our book then, cover. And these exposed bits here we need to cover with an end paper. Now be careful if you're using an end paper that's got a direction. I'm going to show you what I'm using in a minute, because the carrots and everything are all going that way and all the peas and everything are all the right way there. And the last thing you want to do now is put your end paper on upside down. Now for the end paper I'm going to use these pages from a calendar that I made years ago. It's there. So I'm going to put these end papers on here, which will cover up all of this raw edge here. So I've cut them to size so that they overlap here. In fact, I might just put those underneath like so. I like to do that. I'll glue on again. This is the picture of the that I'm going to be using. I'm going to position that so that it's equal here, here and here. A piece of my paper on there, and then we're going to just rub that down with your hand or a clean cloth all through the middle. Thin glue, nice thin layer, end paper on evenly all the way around those three sides. Don't worry about the middle, we're going to worry about the middle later. Rub it through the paper. With the velvet, I actually peeled the velvet back. I'm going to stick the velvet back down again so that that's sticking over my end papers there and there. And then remember to dry this with the book closed. Back in part 2 next week, the pages.